Long antenna, long reach. Welcome back to Parasitology. Hi, I'm Christopher. In this section, we begin the arthropods by entering the world of Nematoceran dipterans, mosquitoes, biting midges, black flies, and sandflies. These are small insects, but they have an enormous clinical reach. Mosquitoes shape heartworm prevention and arbovirus risk. Biting midges drive allergic skin disease and major livestock viruses. Black flies connect running water ecology with painful swarms and fuzzy Onchocerca transmission patterns. Sandflies bring us into Leishmania and One Health. The goal is to learn how biology predicts risk. For each group, ask, what does it look like? Where do the immature stages develop? How does the adult feed? What animals are exposed? What disease patterns does it create? And where's the control point? If you can build that framework, the details are much easier to organize. Before we zoom into nematocerans, let's place flies into a practical veterinary roadmap. We are going to use 3 teaching bins. First are the nematocerans, mosquitoes, biting midges, black flies, and sandflies. These are the focus of this video, and many are major vectors. Second are non-cycloraphan bradycerans, especially tabanids such as horseflies and deer flies. Third are cycloraphans, the group that includes many muscoid flies, blowflies, flesh flies, bot flies, heads, and tsetse flies. A quick taxonomy note. These categories are useful bins, not perfectly equivalent branches. Cycloraphans are nested within Brachycera, but for veterinary pattern recognition, this roadmap works. Different fly groups bring different biology. That biology predicts the veterinary problem: blood feeding, nuisance, mechanical transmission, biologic transmission, myiasis, allergic disease, and production loss. This module is really about using fly biology to predict veterinary risk. We will start with the family Culicidae, the mosquitoes. The major genre to recognize for veterinary and public health discussions include Anopheles, Aedes, and Culex. You do not need to become a mosquito taxonomist today, but these names matter because they reoccur in discussions of malaria, arboviruses, and other vector-borne diseases. The immature stages are aquatic. Larvae are often affectionately called wigglers. They move in the water and breathe at the surface, often through posterior siphons, although not every genus looks exactly the same. Pupae are called tumblers. They do not feed, but they remain active and breathe through respiratory trumpets. This matters clinically because mosquito control often starts in the water, not the air. Adult males feed on nectar and plant fluids. Females also use nectar, but they take blood meals to support egg production. That blood feeding behavior is what makes mosquitoes important vectors. The clinical pearl is simple. When you hear mosquito, think water-associated immature stages, blood-feeding females, and control strategies that target breeding sites as well as adult exposure. This table is dense. Welcome to parasitology and veterinary medicine. Mosquitoes can transmit viruses, protozoa, and nematodes. Among the viruses, you will see alpha viruses, such as Eastern, Western, and Venezuelan equine encephalitis. You will also see flaviviruses, such as West Nile virus and Japanese encephalitis virus, along with other important agents, such as Rift Valley fever virus. For protozoa, mosquitoes transmit Plasmodium, which we will simplify on the next slide. For nematodes, think filarial parasites, especially Dirofilaria imidis in dogs and cats, along with other filarids in different hosts and regions. The key clinical concept is that reservoir, vector, and host are not always the same thing. Birds, mammals, humans, dogs, horses, ruminants, and wildlife may all be involved in different ways. For veterinary professionals, risk assessment depends upon vector ecology, host exposure, travel, prevention, and local disease patterns. Now let's use Plasmodium as an example of how a complex parasite life cycle can be simplified into a clinically useful framework. For this course, the important mosquito pattern is this. Anopheline mosquitoes transmit mammalian malaria, including human malaria, while culicine mosquitoes transmit many avian malarias. This is the level of detail you need to anchor. There are many Plasmodium species, but we do not need to memorize all of them here. The apicomplexan triangle is the hero of this slide. One corner is the sporozoite, the infective stage delivered by the vector. Another corner is the meront or schizont, representing asexual multiplication in the host. Another part of the cycle involves gametocytes, which are taken up by the mosquito and continue the sexual phase. This simplified triangle gives you a mental handle on the life cycle that can otherwise become visually overwhelming. Malaria reminds us that mosquito biology is not trivia. WHO estimated 282 million malarial cases and 610,000 deaths worldwide in 2024. For veterinary professionals, this is a One Health teaching moment. Vector biology, host ecology, public health, and clinical medicine all overlap. Next, we move on to Simulidae, the black flies. The first thing to remember is that black flies are flowing water flies, not pond mosquitoes. Their larvae develop attached to substrates in fast-flowing oxygenated water. That one ecological fact changes how we think about risk and control. Adult black flies are small, dark, and often humpbacked. Females are telmophages, meaning that they pool feed instead of neatly tapping into a vessel. Clinically, that feeding style can mean painful bites, irritation, blood loss, swarming, and sometimes severe reactions in animals exposed to large numbers. They can also transmit important pathogens, including avian blood parasites and Onchocerca species. The black fly pattern is fast water, painful daytime biting, swarms, and vector potential. Bottom line, black flies are not simply tiny mosquitoes. Their ecology predicts their clinical impact. This image gives us practical identification features. The larva is aquatic, but not in stagnant water. Black fly larvae attach to submerged rocks, vegetation, or debris in fast-flowing streams and rivers. They filter feed in that moving water. And that is why running water ecology is such a major clue. The adult is small and stout with a humpback thorax, broad wings, short antennae, and large eyes. To me, that sounds adorable. Females are telmophage pool feeders. Males are nectar feeders. This is not meant to turn you into an entomologist overnight. It is meant to help you sort likely vectors when a case gives you season, geography, habitat, host species, and clinical signs. If you're dealing with a painful daytime biting, near fast-running water, black flies should move high on your list. Veterinarians care because these flies occur in large numbers. Heavy exposure can mean painful bites, blood loss, nuisance, deadly hypersensitivity reactions, and significant disease in exposed herds or flocks. Black flies are associated with avian blood parasites such as leukocytozoon, hematoproteus, and the filarial nematodes such as Onchocerca. Painful daytime swarms near fast-running water should make you think black flies. Now we move on to the family Ceratopagonidae, the biting midges, often called no-see-ums. The most important veterinary genus here is Culicoides. I want to pause on that name because it's a common trap. Culicidae is the family of mosquitoes. Culicoides is the genus of biting midges within the family Ceratopagonidae. Those names look similar, they may sound similar, but they do not mean the same thing. Biting midges are tiny, usually 1 to 3 millimeters, delicate, and many Culicoides have patterned wings. Females are also telmophages, so their bite is painful. Veterinary professionals care because Culicoides are involved in hypersensitivity disease in horses and in major vector-borne pathogens, especially arboviruses such as blue tongue virus and African horse sickness. Many feed at dusk or dawn, so crepuscular activity is another clue. The teaching pattern is tiny biting flies, patterned wings, midge habitats, allergic dermatitis, and major livestock viruses. This image reinforces the same Ceratopagonidae concept in a cleaner format. If you are comparing these flies to black flies, focus on differences that matter clinically. Culicoides are tiny, delicate midges. They often have patterned wings and long antennae. Black flies are more stout, often have clear wings, and are strongly tied to running water ecology. Culicoides should make you think about crepuscular, that is dusk-time feeding, painful bites, horse hypersensitivity, and arbovirus transmission. Again, the name matters. Culicidae equals mosquitoes, while Culicoides is a biting midge genus. Think Culicoides when you see tiny crepuscular biting flies, patterned wings, painful bites, and allergic dermatitis in horses. This table shows selected pathogens associated with Culicoides. Culicoides biting midges are major vectors of important viruses, protozoa, and nematodes. Blue tongue virus is a key example for small ruminants and deer. African horse sickness is an example for horses. Acabane and Schmallingberg are important ruminant-associated viruses in appropriate geographic and epidemiological contexts. And myxomatosis kills rabbits. These tiny midges impart painful bites, have patterned wings, and feed at dawn or dusk. Livestock, bird, horse, or rabbit disease might point your thinking towards Culicoides. This image bridges black flies and biting midges. Onchocerca species are filarial nematodes. Adults live in connective tissues or ligaments, while microfilaria are commonly found in the skin or dermis. Vector biology drives location. Biting flies feed on the skin, acquire microfilaria, and can later transmit infective larvae. These examples show the story involves different hosts and fly groups. Unless you're sitting for parasite boards, you don't need to memorize every Onchocerca species and vector pair. The core lesson is that skin microfilaria plus biting flies creates transmission potential, and the exact vector relationship can depend upon host species, parasite species, geography, and local fly ecology. Now we move on to the family Psychodidae and the medically important sandflies. These are tiny, delicate, hairy flies with long legs and long antennae. Their wings are hairy and often held upright at rest, giving them a moth-like appearance. These weak flyers feed at dusk, night, and in shaded areas. Unlike mosquitoes, Their immature stages are not aquatic. They develop in terrestrial, humid, organic microhabitats, such as cracks, crevices, burrows, and sheltered areas with high humidity. The veterinary reason this group matters is Leishmania. Sandflies connect canine medicine, human medicine, travel, importation, and One Health. The key genera are often framed geographically. Phlebotomus is the Old World, Leishmania is the New World, and Serengetiomia is in some Old World discussions. The bottom line is think sandflies when you see tiny hairy flies, dusk to night activity, and Leishmania risk in humans and dogs. Sandflies lay eggs in protected microhabitats, such as cracks, crevices, and burrows. They prefer moderate temperatures, darkness, and very high humidity. As weak flyers, they are often nocturnal or crepuscular. Psychodidae transmitted infections include Papatossi or 3-day fever virus, Bartonella bacilliformis, and importantly, Leishmania. Some species of Leishmania impart visceral disease, others cutaneous, and some both. Geography helps guide differentials. Dogs are particularly important in Leishmania conversations because of clinical disease, reservoir potential, importation, and public health relevance. Leishmania is a protozoal parasite. We can dive into this fascinating parasite when we cover protists. Quick review. They shift between two forms. The promastigote is an extracellular flagellated form associated within the sandfly vector. During a sandfly bite, promastigotes are delivered into the host and enter host cells and transform into amastigotes. The amastigote is the small, round to oval intracellular form inside macrophages of the vertebrate host. Amastigotes replicate by binary fission, and this asexual replication generates clinical disease. Remember, promastigote in the vector, amastigote in the host macrophage, and on the right, the table organizes selected species and syndromes. Let's zoom out a bit and highlight where Leishmania lives in taxonomy. Leishmania is not a random parasite name floating in isolation. It is a protist. More specifically, it's an excavaton. And within the excavitans, it belongs to the kinetoplasts. Apicomplexans, such as Plasmodium, Babesia, Toxoplasma, and Cryptosporidium, live in a different part of the protist framework. Amoeba, such as Entamoeba, Acanthamoeba, and Balamuthia, are different again. Taxonomy builds framework. This expanded framework shows why we use simplified models. The full protist landscape is broad, and veterinary parasitology touches many branches. You can see excavitans on the left, including kinetoplastids such as Trypanosoma and Leishmania, diplomatids such as Giardia and Spironucleus, and trichomonids such as Tritrichomonas and Histomonas. Let's close by stepping back from the details. The nematocerans can feel like a long list of tiny flies, but the pattern's actually manageable. Start by recognizing the group. Culicidae are mosquitoes. Simulidae are black flies. Ceratopagonidae are biting midges or no-see-ums. Psychodidae are the medically important sandflies. Next, find the habitat. Mosquitoes point us towards standing water. Black flies point us towards fast-running oxygenated water. Biting midges, moist organic habitats, and sandflies, humid terrestrial cracks, crevices, and burrows. Then predict the clinical risk. Mosquitoes bring heartworm, arboviruses, and malaria. Black flies bring painful swarms, avian blood parasites, and Onchocerca. Biting midges bring hypersensitivity, arboviruses, and also a little bit of Onchocerca. Sandflies bring Leishmania and One Health relevance. That's the big lesson. The fly is the clue. Habitat, feeding behavior, and host ecology predict veterinary problems. Thanks for watching. I'm Christopher Lee, and what you know today protects everyone tomorrow.